And if I just think about the journey of payments, we're reaching almost a third era of digital commerce. You and I probably remember, doing our first shopping on a desktop. And that was an amazing moment for us, rather than having to go to a physical store, you could do it on your desktop. And then the mobile came and transformed our shopping experience. So really, we look at Agentic as being the third era.
Hello and welcome to the latest episode of Visa Spotlights, the podcast where we explore some of the innovations and insights that are continuing to shape the world of payments. I'm your host, Dan Baxter, and today I'm delighted to welcome our special guest, Tareq Muhmood, Visa's Regional President for Central and Eastern Europe, Middle East and Africa. Over the past 12 months, we've seen that the pace of digital transformation has continued to accelerate, and that's been driven by changing consumer expectations, new technology advancements, and the work of industry by financial institutions, merchants, and government partners. 2026 is set to be just as exciting. In today's episode, we're going to look at a number of the trends which we believe are emerging and will be front of mind for us all over the next year. So Tareq, thank you so much again for joining us today.
Dan, it's incredible to be here. Thank you for having me.
Great. So before we look ahead into this year and what the next 12 months may hold, what are some of your reflections in terms of the progress that's been made and some lessons that you'll take away from the last 12 months?
I mean, I would even go back further than 12 months. I'm quite reflective in nature. And if I just think about the journey of payments and how it continues to transform. When we were younger, what was a payment? We'd have our bills or our printed notes or coins and go and facilitate that. You were restricted to the hours of a shop being open for commerce to happen. If you're a small business and you wanted to set up, you'd have to buy the cashier till or the swiping machine or wait 3 weeks for a bank to give you a POS machine. And then when you look at the last few years and then even the last 12 months, the acceleration of digital payments is just phenomenal. And the change of experiences that happen with payments is phenomenal. But with that, unfortunately, the profile of risk also changes. And so rather than just making sure you have good locks on your shop window or your wallet in your pocket, and you never lose your cash, you now have to have multiple ways of protecting yourself to make sure your payment system stays secure. But I mean, I think the pace of innovation accelerated over the last 12 months. I'm anticipating, I'm in a state of readiness that the pace of innovation is going to continue to accelerate over the coming few years.
Absolutely. And so you mentioned this incredible pace of innovation, and it seems almost each year there's something else that sort of emerges and dominates the scene and gets everyone excited and talking each year. I mean, what are some of the things that you're really looking at for the remainder of 2026? What do you think is going to rise to the top this year?
I think there's a few key themes, and I think we get excited with a lot of the new things that happen, but also we should never forget some of the fantastic things that happen every day. I've covered some great markets in my career, like Indonesia, Vietnam, and now in this beautiful region. And even just the idea of a young person, like we launched a student card in Pakistan. The idea that a card can be used for the first time is hugely empowering to an individual. So just getting the basics really right and accessing different parts of society. And then when you see a small business in West Africa or here in the UAE, go live for the first time and receive their first payment online or face-to-face, and the joy of that business owner receiving that payment, just getting those things right, probably excite me more than anything else. But there are so many great things happening. One is around stablecoins, and we see that becoming from a very kind of niche theoretical discussion, really becoming a reality of how it impacts payments. And there's a number of use cases where we're bringing that to life. Second is agentic commerce. So we really think Agentic is going to transform that shopping experience, where it's going to really empower consumers to be much more efficient and effective in how they shop. And there's, again, some great use cases. We see huge impact on the guest checkout experience. So when you and I go shopping online, we're really working hard to really make that a phenomenal payment experience. There's still elements of friction and clunkiness there. Cash is still a huge part of the payment ecosystem. I was reading somewhere that still almost 50% of transactions globally are still cash related. So you'd think that we've made so much progress on digital, but that's still a huge theme there. I think a key one that we're also thinking through with our partners is around identity theft and just making sure that the right protections are in place in this world of agentic, and also just the growth of AI, etc., that people's identity and how that's used for payments is really secure, and we manage the risks around that. And then I think the final topic that in many of our discussions with partners is just agility, in how you can really adapt your infrastructure to provide great personalization to different segments that you're targeting, or individuals or businesses, but also agility in your technology infrastructure, that you're able to pivot and move fast, and things can't be a 2 or 3 year project. It's got to be a matter of weeks or months to be able to deliver things.
Absolutely. So you mentioned stablecoins earlier, and stablecoins have been sort of discussed and on the scene for quite a few years now, but it feels as though over the last 12 months, there's been more interest than ever.
Yeah.
What do you think is driving that more broadly, and particularly within our CEMEA region?
Yeah, it's really interesting because I meet a lot of our clients and our partners around the region, and I see a whole spectrum. And I keep a real open mind on this, because I'm just seeing a spectrum of people who are hugely fanatical that this thing is going to radically change the world in the next 20 days. And then you have people on the other end of the spectrum that says, well, it's interesting, but really, what's it going to do for our ecosystem? And I think we'll probably end up somewhere in the middle, as with most things. Where we're seeing great use cases is where regulations allow that stablecoin becomes a settlement currency. It becomes real time. You're able to settle 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It kind of empowers commerce to happen in a more real-time method around the, cross-border, etc. So I think there's going to be some great use cases where regulations permit that allow the use case of stablecoins to really grow. We are seeing some use cases around the world where you have stablecoin linked cards even. So where consumers have a need to want to hold a stablecoin or even a cryptocurrency, and they want to be able to still use a Visa credential when they go shopping, where the source of funding comes from stablecoin or a cryptocurrency. And so we're seeing niche demands. Some CEOs of banks I speak to wonder, why would anyone want to do that? But people want to do that. So you've got to be able to provide that service if you want to capture that segment of the population.
Absolutely. So it really is around sort of simplifying and smoothing money movement across the many markets which we have across CEMEA and obviously around the world.
It is. It is. You've got to be really clear on the pain point that you're trying to solve. I think there's a novelty factor where people get excited because it's a shiny thing. But I think when I speak to probably the most effective business leaders from fintechs as well as from banks and others, it's really they're thinking about, okay, I have a problem statement, and actually this is going to help me solve for that.
Got it. So stablecoins been discussed a lot over the last 12 months, but probably only comes second to something else that's been discussed even more, which is AI commerce and agentic commerce, which really feels like it's emerging. How do you see that sort of shift in terms of AI shopping, agentic commerce, and where we are now?
Yeah, I'm hugely excited about this personally. We're reaching almost a third era of digital commerce. If you think about when, you and I probably remember, doing our first shopping on a desktop. And that was an amazing moment for us, rather than having to go to a physical store, you could do it on your desktop. And then the mobile came and transformed our shopping experiences. And I'm still getting used to, and even some of the large retailers are still developing that mobile proposition, but it's come a huge way. And many of us now do our grocery shopping through a mobile app and other things through mobile apps. We trade stocks on mobile apps. So that's become the second era, was the mobile experience. So really we look at agentic as being the third era. So I think that's just going to be the next stage of this journey. And that's how big it's going to be. Okay, I'm going to share a personal story. I'm trying to be a better husband this year. Not that I'm a bad husband. I feel I'm doing okay, but I'm trying to lift my game. And so one of my resolutions for 2026 was I want to buy my wife flowers on a regular basis. I probably did it twice last year, and I don't think that's good enough. So I wanted to say, okay, every 3 weeks, let me try and order. Now, so there's one way of me doing it is I put a reminder on my app, and I get a reminder notification to buy, or the others to try and remember. But, as I get older, I may struggle. But the best way, which I think is going to happen very soon, is I can put on my AI agent, say, hey, listen, the budget is X. Please, every 3 weeks, shop around the different e-commerce platforms available, but make sure it's delivered between 9 and 11 in the morning, because I know Anna is going to be at home then, and confirm to me once it's done. And then the agent takes care of it. That's a shopping experience that's on our doorstep, if not already starting. So whilst we're really excited about the agentic payment experience, there really are key pillars to making this successful. And the first ones that Visa is highly focused on is making sure we're safeguarding the consumer's payments itself and giving the right control environment to making sure that they feel that this is going to be a trusted experience for them. The second one is around enhanced payment security, but that's really looking at the payment from an end-to-end angle, that is leaving the client's account and received at the merchant account in a very secured manner, something Visa's been doing for over 60 years, but in the agentic environment, there's a few tweaks to how that model should work. And the last one, which is really exciting, I think, for us, is agent verification and providing the right protocols, the right controls in place that allows, whether you're buying something based out of Vietnam and the e-commerce platforms here in the UAE, but that both parties feel that that agent is being verified properly. And Visa, again, is providing a lot of focus in that space. So we launched in December our first agentic commerce transaction with Aldar in Abu Dhabi for real estate related payments. And that's just one use case. And now we're exploring with e-commerce platforms and other merchants about how to really bring that payments experience to life. It sounds great. That flower story sounds great in reality, but there's a lot that needs to happen behind the scenes where Visa plays an important role for consumers to be able to securely know that their payment details are not going to be compromised and their instructions are going to be followed, or the caps of their payment. But also merchants on the other side are knowing that that's a good agent that's coming to them, that's been authenticated, and that order they'll receive their money when they ship the flowers. So that's what Visa does. It provides that connectivity between the multiple players.
Yeah, I think we've seen so much change over the last 12 months again in terms of people using AI tools to be able to inform shopping decisions.
Yes.
To be able to discover and find products that are suitable. And as you said, that next stage in terms of the agents being able to make informed, secure purchases on someone's behalf,
yes,
is sort of natural progression there as well.
It's completely, you're spot on. Like most of us use it for holiday, planning and things like that. But wouldn't it be incredible? And again, it's not far away that you put your holiday dates in, your Eid holidays, etc., summer holidays, Christmas, whatever you're planning to go down. And then it just sends you your itinerary. What do you think? It sends you the different flight options. What do you think? And you enable your agent to make the decision for you. And all you need to worry about is, what attire you want to take with you for your holidays.
And leaving your house full of flowers at home.
Flowers. Make sure you do the flowers. That's right.
So AI obviously presents huge opportunity. It's a great consumer experience, but there's always a bit of concern around the risks that come with AI. And so could you just share some of your thoughts in terms of that balance between the great opportunity that you spoke about, what the industry is really doing to ensure the consumer payments are protected?
So I met a CEO of a bank this morning, and fraud risk, transactional fraud risk, is it takes up a lot of bandwidth for them, of regulators, and it's a huge challenge for consumers as well. It removes trust in the ecosystem whenever that happens. And of course, technology is a great enabler of bad actors being able to do that. So fortunately at Visa, since the 90s, we've been using AI for much of our own risk capabilities. So if you're shopping in Greece on your holiday, but suddenly we see that your credentials being used in Vegas, etc., we're able to identify that's potentially fraud very quickly, and within nanoseconds let your bank know that, hey, something might be up with Dan's credential. But what we're seeing is nothing to do with the Visa payment experience. It's actually so many other payments experiences that exist. It could be a bank transfer that I make to you, where I'm being socially engineered. It's not really Dan that's contacted me. It's someone else with a similar family name that you have that says, hey, Tareq, don't forget you owe me X hundred dirhams or whatever. And then I get socially engineered to make that payment to the fraudster that's pretending to be you. Even though I authenticate the payment, I authorize the payment, I suddenly realize, oh my gosh, I've sent it to the wrong. And that happens on a regular with social engineering. It happens so often. Fortunately, there's a lot of technology that's at hand. And, Visa bought a fantastic company called FeatureSpace that really provides phenomenal AI-driven monitoring and behavioral analytics that continuously learns based on our daily behaviors about what's considered higher risk that they're seeing and what's considered lower risk. And it not only looks at you as a person, but it also looks at who you're sending the money to say, is that end beneficiary also really credible, or is there something potentially risky about that payment?
Got it. So we've looked at a couple of the big sort of forward-looking themes for the year in terms of stablecoins and AI and what's changing there. And I'd like us now to perhaps look at a couple of areas that have been around for a while. E-commerce has grown significantly, obviously, through the region, and I think has led to e-commerce, to mobile commerce, to the AI commerce that we're talking about today. Yeah. But the e-commerce experience isn't always brilliant, is it? And I know that's something that we're really focused on and working with our partners across the board. Could you sort of unpick that a bit?
There's a couple of main problem statements still around e-commerce, but we're working hard at addressing.
Yeah.
If you look at when you or I buy things on some platforms, it's so easy because the card is on file, is securely held, is tokenized on the platform, and you're able to just say, yes, use the same payment method that I've used, and the transaction, your shirt is ordered or your book is ordered, etc. It just happens seamlessly. 60 to 70% of transactions don't follow that experience. 60 or 70% of transactions, you still have to input your 16-digit card number, your CVV, and this, and then you get your OTP maybe on your phone, or you have to check your email for a password, etc. And then a few minutes later, your payment is done. But that takes, if you add that up from a shopping experience, it takes up a lot of time as well. And every time you enter in your 16-digit thing, you need to make sure the merchant's storing it in a secure manner, etc. There's a lot of protection around that, but it's just a very clunky experience. So we've got platforms like Click to Pay, we've got tokenization solutions that just allow it to be a one-click experience. Because if you compare e-commerce shopping to face-to-face shopping, there's still a lot more friction to the e-commerce experience compared to you and I walking into a store and just buying something with the tap of our card. So what we're trying to do with e-commerce is to do that contactless experience by providing that one-click experience that's secure, that's updated. So if you change your card, if your card gets renewed, it's updated behind the scenes. So you're able to still enjoy a great payments experience.
And it is very difficult, isn't it, to remember your card details, and particularly if you've got multiple cards.
That's right.
Do you think this could be getting towards the end of the manual guest checkout experience?
Yeah, maybe. I think there's always going to be a spectrum of different consumers who have a different preference.
Yeah.
You know, my dad, I think, will continue to want to still input his details. He likes that experience. I see people still in shopping stores pulling out their wallet because they love using a physical card rather than using a tokenized payments experience. So I think we just got to cater for all. But I do think, you know, on a personal basis, and I'm just looking at our data, is clearly the level of tokenization, the level of people using one-click checkout is growing all the time.
Absolutely. Now, you spoke earlier about the level of transformation we've seen over the last 2 or 3 decades, and this shift from a cash-only environment to where many transactions are digital. Across our region of Central and Eastern Europe, Middle East, Africa, cash is still pretty commonplace across many markets. With all of the developments that are underway, do you think we could be reaching a point where it's the end of cash? What's your sort of view moving forward and where we go from here?
Yeah, I think we're at a tipping point, clearly. But I feel we've been at a tipping point for a while, depending on the jurisdiction. There's some markets that I've covered in the past, like the Nordics, that are clearly well off cash as a payment, even though you see very little bit that exists. But there's some markets, like I was in Pakistan recently, where cash is still a huge part of the economy. And there's real reasons why that will stay sticky for a little bit, despite a fantastic growth of Visa payment capabilities, plus others, QR capabilities, etc., that exist in the market. So I think it's almost that you have to have a real focus and discipline, not only as Visa, but also the broader ecosystem to keep driving the reduction of cash, because the benefits are huge. The benefits of providing data, the benefits of the cost of avoiding cash, carrying cash and having to deposit it, the benefits of having to reprint money as a central bank, the benefits of tax collection, etc. But really, I think, so the benefits are just huge of digital payments overall, but there's still a journey ahead.
Yeah, you've spoken a couple of times around consumer expectations and making sure that industry isn't just driving innovation for the sake of innovation, but really to meet those expectations that consumers have got. One of the areas that I've seen lots of consumers increasingly expect is something that's very personalized. Consumers want personalized experiences, and then for the experience to be frictionless when they get there. How do you see the topic of personalization, and what do you think that means for financial institutions across the region?
Yeah, it's really exciting. If you think about what banks historically or fintechs would be providing, they basically provide a one-size-fits-all bank account, card proposition. That's not too long ago. We're in discussions with some banks who want to create value propositions for 300 people, and they have 10 million clients, but they want to create a value proposition for 300 people because you can. Technology is a great enabler that just allows you then to say, okay, there's 300 people that have very similar profiles, similar needs, they behave in this way, and we think we can do something extra special for those 300. A few years ago, that would have been really hard to do. But nowadays, you can really generate fantastic personalization to clients. And it's not only, I'm not only talking about high-end, super affluent clients, I'm really talking about all kinds of segments. This could be a particular university group where there's an ecosystem of landscapes around them that need a certain value prop. So I think it's just a fantastic enabler that technology and digital platforms provide. We're experimenting ourselves as Visa with applications like we have an application called the Visa Airport Companion app that provides some great tailoring of offers. If you're an airport, it identifies through your geolocation which lounges you can access, etc. So I think we're still at the beginning of a journey, and I think this journey will continue for a while to come.
Great. So we've spoken around 6 really interesting trends, which we'll be able to look at over the year and see how they sort of play out. What would be some of your guidance and recommendations to financial institutions and merchants and government partners as we start the year in terms of remaining ahead of these and capturing the opportunities that exist?
Yeah, we're really fortunate as Visa. We have phenomenal relationships with so many financial institutions and fintechs. And where I've seen the successful ones really thrive is when they're absolutely deliberate about their payment strategy. So whether you're a merchant or whether you're a bank or whether you're a fintech or an acquirer, you're super deliberate. It's not a enabler of your business. It's absolutely core to your business growth. And where I see our merchants, banks, partners have that kind of focus about saying, how do we really enhance the customer experience of a payment? How do we manage the risk of a payment? How do we use the data of a payment to better enable and power our business? You can see the value that they create out of it. We've had fantastic co-brand partnerships with airlines around the world. And I think 5-10 years ago, they wouldn't even have people that specialize in this space. They have small, dedicated, focused, experienced teams. If you look at the large retailers, the successful ones, they have dedicated teams that focus on the payments experience. So I think it'd be really deliberate. Please engage with your Visa, contacts and with Visa to kind of get best practices about how you do that. And then make sure we have a clear, joint execution plan to bring that to life.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for joining us again today. It's obviously an incredibly exciting time and lots of opportunity for the year ahead. And look forward to welcoming you back in a few months' time to see how these trends played out and what's going to come next.
I can't wait to see how this, I have without a doubt it's going to be an incredible year for the payments industry. We can't wait to play a big role in that.
Thank you so much, Tareq.
Thanks, Dan.
Thank you for listening today. Hope you enjoyed hearing about some of these 2026 trends and have a great year ahead.